welcome. This is Morning Ride coming live to you from NTA 2 Victoria Island, Lagos. My name is Yinka Kenny.
Central to today's dynamic working environment is the employees who are the synchronon in the workplace ecosystem. The overall purpose of human resources is to ensure that an organization is able to achieve success through its people. It is therefore pertinent to manage these human capital and to focus on implementing the organization policies and processes. An HR practitioner extraordinaire is our guest today, and he will be taking us through the roles of HR in the workplace, among others. Okay, so let's just go ahead and welcome the HR expert with us. He's a risk manager, a researcher, and facilitator, a trainer, a strategist. He's also one of globally recognized HR influencer. I'm sure you agree with me that we have a big fish in the house today. Please, let's join us to welcome Mr. Adeyemi Olanrewaju Ajayi. Glad to have you with us on Morning Ride.
Good morning.
Wow.
Good to have you here.
Wow. You know, when we see people with such intimidating credentials, it's always interesting. So you're welcome to Morning Ride.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, let's start this way. Now, for many people, when they hear human resources, you know, what really comes to mind is there vacancy somewhere? You know, are they recruiting there? I mean, and of course for obvious reasons, you know, unemployment and all of that. So aside recruitment, aside staffing, aside training, aside remuneration and all of that, what are the other core functions of HR?
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Yeah, unfortunately, in many parts, you know, whether in public or private sector, the roles of HR is quite, they are quite evolving. Unfortunately, people don't know so many things HR do. One of the things HR do in an organization is to even formulate a strategy of the organization. Because if you want to achieve organizational goals, you need to manage all things.
Okay.
You need a human resource, you need a financial resource, you need a physical resource to achieve whatever you want to achieve. And the most dynamic, most important of the three is the human resource. Apart from formulating strategy, if you want to design organizational goals, set objectives, you need to carry people along because people will help you to achieve it.
That's right.
And I also want to tell you one of the roles of HR is to ensure employee engagement, meaning people should be comfortable and happy with the job they are doing. The rate at which people are leaving jobs is quite very high nowadays. So it's the role of HR to come and sit down and what can we do to make people enjoy what they're doing. So in terms of employee engagement, HR plays a very important role. HR is a major driver of culture in the organization.
Okay.
So if you have a culture, a pattern of work and all that, the real custodian is the HR. Ensure that even at the point of entry, coming into the organization, you understand the culture. You also make sure that you keep to that culture. HR is also an advisor, an internal consultant, a crisis manager. You know, especially in a situation where you have industrial action and things are being left and right, the next person to face is the HR. You know, they want the HR to help manage the crisis. Then HR is a chief learning administrator in every organization. So the role is quite very wide. Even in public service, without the HR playing key role, many times you see things slip back, you know, things fail. That is why there is a cadre for HR development, even in the federal civil service and the state civil service.
Wow, Mr. Jai, I mean, the way you're going, I'm sure at the end of, by the time you are done, you would have taken so much notes, you know. So, YK, you want to comment?
Yes, you see, Father, you have said so many things that, you know, I could. Now, I want to ask. We have seen that the role of HR is very important in public service, in civil service. What about we have some small entrepreneurs that probably do not have much, too many, you know, staff, probably about 10 thereabout, and most of the times, you know, Aluta starts from HR. So those people, you know, is there a place for HR even in a small organization?
Absolutely, there is. One of the things that Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria is doing is to also ensure that there is synergy between the institute and small scale business owners, even with SMENA, collaborations and synergy going on there. One of the things I advocated for then as the Director for Strategy and Advocacy while at CIPM is to ensure that there are opportunities and value propositions for the small scale businesses. Because to really grow and achieve that trajectory, you need to effectively manage people. If you see statistics globally, the highest recruiters are within that bracket of small scale businesses.
That's right.
Yes, if you pack them together in volume, they recruit more. However, organization as small as it may be, need structure. If you really wants to grow, and the real manager of the structure is the HR. So at times, some of them come with the point of either outsourcing the HR function or having it in-house. But my advice as an expert is to have it in-house. Because when you have someone in-house managing your people, it puts less trouble on you and it makes you to focus on growing the business. Someone is managing the people. You have an accountant managing the finance. So you should manage the business. So if you have an HR person else, no matter how small you are, it helps you, it gives you leverage.
Okay, let me just ask you something now. You know, I mentioned something, you know, when I was asking you that question. I said Aluta starts from, you know, we all know what Aluta is. Now, the HR, I am a business owner. I employed everybody. I employed the HR and the HR, I own the HR and HR department. Now, in a situation wherein you have the staff or the HR now, you know, I'm trying to seemingly fighting for, you know, the supposed rights of the staff, but the management feels that this is unreasonable and there is some sort of a controversy. You know, most times this happens.
Absolutely.
Now, should the HR not also, because I see that in most cases HR, you know, in well-established organizations, they tend to tilt to the side of the, you know, staff other than the side of the management. Is that supposed to be so? And in most cases, the management feels that that HR isn't being considerate, because there are two sides to the coin. It's either side you are seeing through. It could be from the front, it could be from the back. Why is it always so?
Okay, it's I would say.
Do you understand?
Absolutely, it's a huge perception. Okay, and HR people have to bear that pain. Okay, if you have two rooms, this is one room here, this is another room, this is the door. HR is that door. So you don't know whether the door belongs to this room or the door belongs to the other room. So the door can swing either way. That is what HR is, a doorway between the management and the people. Unfortunately, the people think HR is for management and not for them. And management also think the other way. So HR is that lonely person in the middle, trying to balance the interest of both people. But you know, again, it boils down to the opportunity the organization gives to the HR person to be able to manage the two interests. But by profession, an HR practitioner is a business advocate, at the same time a people advocate, and he or she should be able to balance the interest, you know, of both parties. Let us also remember that this HR practitioner we're talking about in an organization is also an employee. So whatever you hit back to the employee hits back to you. And also, if you make a representation to the management, they will not have confidence in you representing their interests. So it's a dilemma that many HR practitioners have to manage. But I mean, I believe a lot of my colleagues are managing it well, even in the midst of so many challenges.
Indeed. One can just imagine the burden on the shoulders of HR people because it just, yeah, from what you have just explained. Okay, now central to human resources, I mean, just like we've been saying, is industrial relations, which is where the HR actually, you know, situates, just like you have aptly described it, the door between, you know, it starts, you know, as a liaison, if you like, lies between the management and talking about the employer-employee relationship. Now, tell us, what are whether we like it or not, the people are central in any, whether private or public outfit. Tell us, what are the basic rights? I mean, it could vary from organization to organization, but what are the basic rights of an average employee in any organization?
Okay, right differs from different jurisdictions.
Yes. Okay.
So I'll mention the global rights.
Okay.
Then I'll mention the local rights. Globally, every employee all over the world should have a contract with the employer.
Okay.
There should be a contract that you're
Okay.
working with me and I'm paying you. It's basic, at least at every point. It's also basic that the employer should have a fair recruitment process. You know, it's basic all over the world. Now, it's the right of the employee to also ensure that the employer pays for the job being done based on the terms and conditions and at the right time. It's also global that there are certain regulatory benefits that employees should enjoy, like health insurance. So it's basic, you know, it's a global thing. Like pensions is a basic thing, you know, globally. It's also global that basically employees should enjoy what we call workplace safety and psychological safety. You shouldn't hire someone and send the person to a dangerous environment where the person's physical health or mental health will be affected adversely, okay? Apart from the military anyway. You know what the military goes to do. And of course, in the military, you're not sending your men out there to die, you're sending them to go and do something in your favor. Now, if we come to Nigeria, some of the rights of employees that many don't know is, for example, the women have the right to maternity leave. You know, they should have maternity leave, 90 days maternity leave. And of course, we call it confinement period, is in the labor law. And of course, the federal government has also signed in paternity leave.
Yeah. Well, we thank them for that.
So that becomes local rights, you know, for the federal civil servants, not the private sector.
Yes.
It's also the right of employees to have their pensions, the employer's pension contribution paid by their employers. Now, one of the big things that we find very funny is that many organizations will tell employees that unless they are confirmed, their pensions cannot be paid. That is totally wrong. From the first day an employee joins a job, they have the right to their pensions. It should be paid from the first day.
Okay.
Then the employee should be they're entitled to annual leave.
Okay. Yeah. Among others, Mr. Jai, I just want us to, you know, be able to squeeze in so many things in the short time we have.
Okay.
You know, I asked what are the basic rights, because I know that, which is where you actually started, there had to be a contract, you know, between an employer and employee before employees start working in such organization. And I'm thinking, if all this you have, you know, just outlined now, are well spelled out in the agreement, as it were, for, you know, joining an organization, I begin to wonder, why then do we have unrest, industrial unrest often?
Yeah, you see, why we have industrial unrest is there's something called collective bargaining. It's part of industrial relations. So if I'm working with you, there should be some things that you should fairly do to me. And especially in a unionized environment, if those things are not fairly done, the union will come and make a demand. We call it charter of demand. We put a demand across. If there is inflation, for example, the employees can come together and say, see, the salary you are paying us is not enough. Can you help us increase it? And if you say no, then that is where industrial unrest, you know, start from. Or they want better working conditions apart from pay and other benefits. Yeah.
So at what point exactly the responsibility of the HR stops? Because with all of these rights and all of that, and the management feels that no, maybe due to some reason we cannot meet these demands and all of that, where is the stopping point for the HR?
Yeah, the stopping point for HR is at the advisory point. HR is just to advise, you cannot force.
Okay.
Yeah, so you should know that limit. Once you advise the management, you advise the employee, you can't force any action. You can't put rope on the employer and say you must do this. Your rules stop at that point of advising and of course engaging stakeholders fairly. So your role stops now. If you're going deeper, trying to force things, then you're not creating the right impact that you should create.
So will it be right to say that an HR person should some sort of be a psychologist or something like that?
Certainly.
Absolutely.
Certainly.
They are. I mean, we are.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I mean, you just have to be able to balance both ends. You just have to, you know.
The unfortunate thing is nobody watches after the HR.
Ah, that's another thing.
Yeah.
You psych yourself up.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah, the psychology that helps us is that nobody is there to look at you. You're seen as a
you
super
keep
person.
psyching yourself up.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's quickly, I mean, there's so much to talk about, but I want us to also, you know, quickly, you know, take a peep into another core area of your expertise, which is area of risk management. Yes, with, you know, everyday challenge, economic challenge, and where, what do you call it now? The fear of unknown, you don't know what can happen next, and you hardly can plan, and you know what I'm talking about. Is risk taking worth it?
Absolutely. Risk is everywhere. It's what you can avoid. Coming from your home, coming from anywhere to this point, or living for anywhere. It's risk. Anything can happen. You know, anything that has the potential to alter your set goal relative to the probability of that happening and the impact is a risk. And it can happen. So risk is worth taking. In fact, if you don't take any risk, it's a risk in
itself.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I should just quickly add this. Now, how then would you advise or, you know, talk to people who have the philosophy of a bird in hand is worth two in the bush?
Depends on the bird. You know, if it depends on the birds. You know, if you have people that can get you something better, and you have one, you know, bird or day old chicken, and say this one is worth two in the bush. I mean, it's for people who want to take risk safety. But for a risk taker, that two in the bush is worth more than that one.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, but can you say that yes, good to take risks, but calculated risks?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's
Absolutely.
what calculated
You know,
risk.
you have to take calculated risk, but unfortunately, calculated risk are not always certain risk. The fact that you calculated the risk doesn't mean you are certain. Anything can still happen.
So that is exactly why I asked whether it's worth taking in the first place.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, rounding off this session, you're an award-winning HR person. Someone out there could just be watching you and feel that, wow, I want to be this, I want to do this. I'm going into school. What should I be studying?
Well, for those
Apart from psychology.
Yeah, I mean, we have industrial relations. We have people who study social sciences.
Yeah.
It's easy for you gliding from social sciences into human resource management. And one of the things is human resource, like people think that it's for everybody. It's not really for everybody. It's for people who are ready to withstand the heat. You know, because many times if things go wrong with people, it's the HR they face. So social sciences works for you.
Okay.
If you also want to cross, it's an open field, but be ready to take on the sacrifices.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Adeyemi Olanrewaju Ajayi. I'm sure people have seen it that indeed when we talk about HR, we have an authority sitting here. Thank you so much for your time with us. And we hope that when next we call on you, you shall oblige us.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's been the session with the HR expert with us.